We all have cast iron, or we should, for SHTF situations. But let's face it, most people have never used theirs and they just keep it for emergencies. If you haven't seasoned your cast iron, you might run into some trouble. Even if you do use your cast iron regularly, or you were lucky enough to inherit it from your Meemaw, there are still some foods you should avoid cooking in it. So what does seasoned mean? Seasoned cast iron means creating a non-stick surface by coating it with oil and heating it. This builds up layers of fat that protect the pan and make cooking easier. If your cast iron isn't seasoned, food will stick and cleaning will be a nightmare. And why some foods are trouble in cast iron? Even with seasoned cast iron, certain foods can cause issues. Here's a rundown of foods you should avoid. Acidic foods like tomatoes, vinegar-based sauces, and citrus. Why? Well, these foods can strip the seasoning from your cast iron, leaving it unprotected and prone to rust. They can also leave a metallic taste in your food. Cleanup issues. You might need to scrub hard to remove the residue, which can further damage the seasoning. Delicate fish like tilapia or flounder. These fish can stick to the pan and fall apart. Cast iron can also overpower the mild taste of delicate fish. Cleanup issues. Fish residue can be really tough to remove, and it might require intense scrubbing, again risking the seasoning. Sticky foods like eggs and pancakes. Eggs and pancakes can stick if the skillet isn't perfectly seasoned or if you don't use enough fat. Scrubbing off that stuck-on junk can strip the seasoning. Smelly foods like garlic, onions, and strong spices. Strong smells can linger in the cast iron and transfer to other dishes that you might cook later. Cleanup issues. Odors are super tough to remove without thorough cleaning, which again can damage the seasoning. Wine-based sauces. Similar to acidic foods, wine can react with the cast iron, affecting both the pan and the taste of the sauce itself. Those cleanup issues again, that sticky, burnt-on sauce can be hard to clean off without scrubbing. Desserts, especially those with lots of sugar. Sugar can stick and burn, making a big mess. Removing burnt sugar often requires serious scrubbing, which again can harm the seasoning. Marinated foods, especially those with vinegar or citrus. Marinades with vinegar or citrus can wear down the seasoning and leave the pan vulnerable to rust. Scrubbing off the marinade residue can remove seasoning layers. Cooking over a fire. Cast iron is great for cooking over a fire in SHTF situations, but there are challenges. Temperature control. Fire isn't nearly as controlled as a stove, which can make it harder to cook certain foods without burning or sticking. Rust issues. If your cast iron isn't well seasoned, cooking over a fire can cause it to rust quickly, especially if it's exposed to moisture. Keep your cast iron in top shape by avoiding these problem foods. Season your skillet well and regularly to maintain that non-stick surface and protect against rust. So how do you season cast iron properly? Seasoning your cast iron skillet obviously is essential to create that non-stick surface and protect it from rust. And here's a simple way to do it. Clean the skillet. If your cast iron is new or has old seasoning, give it a good scrub with warm water and a little soap. Dry it thoroughly with a towel. Apply oil. Rub a thin layer of oil over the entire skillet. Use a high smoke point like vegetable oil, canola oil, or flaxseed oil. And make sure you coat the entire surface, including the handle and the bottom. Heat the skillet. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Place the skillet upside down on the middle rack of the oven. Put a sheet of aluminum foil on the rack below to catch any drips. Bake the skillet. Let it bake for about an hour. This process allows the oil to bond with the metal through a process called polymerization. forming a hard, protective layer. Cool down. After an hour, turn off the oven and let the skillet cool inside. Once it's cool, it's ready to use. Tips for maintaining your seasoning. Cook with fat. Regularly cooking with oils or fats helps build up the seasoning. Avoid soap. After use, clean with hot water and a stiff brush. Avoid soap as it can strip the seasoning. And never put your cast iron in the dishwasher. Dry thoroughly. Always dry your skillet thoroughly after washing to prevent rust. Reapply oil. After drying, apply a thin layer of oil to maintain the seasoning and protect the surface. Remember, even the best cared for cast iron can struggle with certain foods, especially over an open fire. Stick to cast iron friendly recipes and you'll be ready for any SHTF cooking challenge.